Hello there and welcome to Business Daily. This program is where we bring you up to the minute with developments in the world of economy, business, finance, trade, and also get top-notch analysis on topics and trends in the very fast-paced world of business. I am your host, Christiana Amodu Otinya. Thank you for joining in. Of course, it's the last month in the third quarter, and we are set to bring you all the news you need to know in the world of business. On today's edition of the program, we'll be discussing recent issues that have come up in the trade sector, and we'll be talking about the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, that's the AFCFTA. How far so far? The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, the UNECA, projects that the trade agreement will help provide a market of 1.2 billion people, boost intra-African trade by between $50 billion and $70 billion in monetary terms, with a 40% to 50% increase over the first 20 years of its implementation. Now, there was a lot of optimism when this era started in January 2021, but it may seem as though that optimism has waned. Now, the big question remains, why? I will be joined on the program today by Bamidele Ayemibo. He is a renowned author, international business coach, keynote speaker, international business development expert, and one of the foremost international trade and finance consultants in Africa. He is a lead consultant at 3T Impacts Consulting Limited. Now, he will be giving perspective to the journey so far for the AFCFTA. I'll take a short break now, and when I come back, we'll kickstart the conversation. Please stay. Welcome back to the program, and thank you for still staying there with us. Now, I'm being joined by my guest. He's Bamidele Ayemibo. He's the lead consultant at 3T Impacts Consulting Limited. Welcome to the program, Bamidele.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for joining us on the program. Now, before we kickstart the interview and have you give perspective to this discussion for us, let's quickly just run through some fact check of the AFCFTA, talking about some data, because this journey started from somewhere. So now that we are here, what is it really like for the benefit of those watching? Now, the key objective to be achieved through successful round of negotiations that have to be done in phases, that's for the AFCFTA, includes lay the foundation for the establishment of a continental customs union, promote and attain sustainable and inclusive socio-economic development, gender equality, and structural transformation of state parties, enhance the competitiveness of the economies of state parties within the continent and global market, also promote industrial development through diversification and regional value chain development, agricultural development and food security, and resolve the challenges of multiple and overlapping memberships and expedite the regional and continental integration processes. Now, Article 4 of the agreement mandates state parties to progressively eliminate tariffs and non-tariff barriers to trade in goods, progressively liberalize trade in services, cooperate on investment, intellectual property rights, and competition policy, cooperate on all trade-related areas, establish a mechanism for the settlement of disputes concerning their rights and obligations, and establish and maintain an institutional framework for the implementation and administration of the AFCFTA. Now, let me bring my guest into the discussion. It's been almost 2 years down the line since this historic feat was reached for the African continent, basically to open up the continent and also benefit the continent in terms of trade and trade relations. I want you to assess the journey so far. Has it been injurious or has it been a blessing?
The journey so far has been progressive. What was done 2 years ago was the flag up that, look, we are now set to trade under AFCFTA. However, the infrastructure to make that happen were not fully done yet. So what has happened between last year, January, and now has been, number one, the negotiation of the tariff among the countries. So now about 88% tariff negotiation has happened. So we just have about 12 to go. We have already have the 22 countries required to ratify for it to start. Then we need two other things: infrastructure for payment and transport. Payment was a big challenge because if we are going to be doing AFCFTA and relying on foreign currency in which we have to pay, and you have to go through New York back to Africa because I want to pay Ghanaian seller in foreign currency like USD, it's going to be a challenge for us. So early this year, another milestone was reached, which involved the implementation of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. So what is being worked on now is a lot of other projects around building infrastructure for transport and the like, which will take a longer time. But having sorted out the issue of tariff negotiation, now we know if you go to AFCFTA secretariat website, you will be able to see the e-tariff that lets you know if you are going to ship to Ghana or you are shipped to Kenya or you are shipped to Ethiopia, you know exactly what would be the tariff of the product, which of them is sensitive, which of them is non-sensitive, which of them is exclusive. You will be able to know those things on the website. And now that we now have a payment platform as an alternative payment platform, if the country in question does not have enough Forex and they want to pay in local currency, that has been done. We are almost set. And that's why by this month, there will be guided trade, because now most of the things that need to be done has been done likely. So we're expecting the country like Ghana, like Cameroon, like Mauritius, like Egypt, like Tunisia are going to do guided trade, like a model trade to demonstrate to all other African countries, this is going to work, this is working, so that other people can begin to follow suit. So not that nothing has happened really, because I saw a news, someone wrote that for like 2 years, nothing has happened, Nigeria is not doing anything. Nigeria could not have done anything. Neither could Ghana have done anything. Neither could South Africa have done anything. A lot were being done on the ground, and now we are set to start trading.
I hear you loud and clear. I hear you say we are set to start trading. And I also hear you talk about infrastructure, transport infrastructure, which, like you have rightly stated, will take a long time to kickstart because, of course, a lot has been said about it being a marathon and not a sprint. Now, tell me, in terms of positioning, because you're talking about this month, the month of September, Nigeria, we have a big market, 200 million people. That population is still growing. Have we positioned ourselves to harness the benefits of this deal eventually? Because talking about the whole guided trade, when this eventually comes to limelight and we see this market kickstart?
Now, unfortunately, among the 7-8 countries to do that, Nigeria is not one of them. Look, let me commend you for doing this program, and I will implore you to do more of it. Let me tell you the real challenge of trade in Nigeria, particularly export and AFCFTA. Many are not aware, many are not educated. This is a program for African businesses, but many of them don't even know it exists in the first place. So this kind of program you have should be a weekly program. As in, we should be doing program on trade every week, talking about it. And the reason is this: the more people know, the easier it is to be able to begin to take steps about it. Most free trade agreements that have failed in the past were largely because of lack of awareness, lack of information on exactly how to go about it. We need information about the policy. We need information about the paperwork required. We need information about the payment. We need information about the products to be exported. We need information about the people that are involved. We need information about the processes involved. So much information, and even about the profit and the benefit. So much information required, but those are not being disseminated. So for me, I don't think we are ready as Nigeria. Africa is ready. Ghana, to a large extent, seems to be ready. The secretariat is with them. Rwanda, to a large extent, seems to be ready. I don't think Nigeria is ready. The process of how it's going to export from how to go to work in Nigeria in terms of the process in Nigeria is being finalized by custom. So government is doing its part. When I mean readiness in Nigeria, not on the part of government, I'm talking about Nigerian businesses being ready. On the part of government, I'm in touch with them, and a lot is being done currently. I was chatting the National Action Committee office recently on it, and he was talking about they're finalizing the process, step-by-step process, the way to work from Nigerian perspective, and custom is finalizing on that already, and they will make it known to the public very soon. But I'm talking about Nigerian owning it and having all the information required to get ready. I'm not sure we are yet.
Now, talking about us being ready, you've rightly said that you are in talks with those in government and they are tightening the knots or tightening the screws on their part. The MSME sector has been tagged the engine room of the economy now, and we have a lot of businesses under this umbrella, largely informal. Why am I asking you this? Because you've spoken about awareness, because what you don't know, you really cannot act on it. And like you have rightly said, that's the challenge we're having now. How do we tackle this? How do we go about this? Because a lot of time we're quick to say the government has to do this, the government has to do that. But now the government is clearly working, and the onus now lies with those that run businesses to get it right. How do we get these businesses, over 14 million of them, ready to harness this market and reap the benefits, the dividends of this deal?
Creating awareness. Awareness. We need you guys in the media. We need you guys in the media. Newsprint, online media, TV, radio, television. I'm on radio every week in partner with a bank that graciously agreed to sponsor, discussing this in Lagos every week. We need awareness on this, and it has to be done regularly. So that's on the part of, let's say, the private sector. Then the Chamber of Commerce, who have some of these people under them, to be able to get them to be aware through advocacy and seminars regularly. Then the National Association of Small Medium Enterprise, NASME, and SMEDAN, the government agency and the association, organizing program. You know, when you look at where at the election in the election season, everybody knows the top 3 or top 4 contenders in Nigeria. Everybody knows them. That is exactly the way we should do this. If this is going to be successful, every business in Nigeria must be aware of AFCFTA. And it will take a lot of work, time, money, and effort for that to happen. But that is not being done right now.
Bamidele, if you can hear me, I want you to hold on your thoughts. And when we return, the conversation will continue shortly. Please stay with us.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back to the program. If you're just joining in, this is Business Daily coming to you from Trust TV. I still have my guest with me here on the program. He is Bamidele Ayemibo. He's the lead consultant at 3T Impex Consulting Limited. Bamidele, I'm still sticking with the issue of how we can ensure that businesses in Nigeria get to reap dividends of the AFCFTA market. Now, you were speaking about so much about awareness, and you talked about how all the agencies and private sector players responsible need to step up their game to ensure that these businesses come up to speed with developments. Just some days ago, the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, they also laid some concerns around how the issue with the AFCFTA and how we are not still ready yet. I want you to speak to in terms of building capacity of these businesses locally to play in this market. Why I want you to speak on this issue specifically is because a lot has been said about how there's so many monetary benefits in terms of how it will affect the markets. Now, if we don't have local manufacturers in Nigeria positioned to harness this market, it will be very difficult for them to say, yes, we have benefited from this market. Most times we hear people talk about, oh, there's an AFCFTA, it's a market that is huge, it will benefit manufacturers, it will benefit local businesses. But if these local businesses do not play in this market, it will be hard to reap the benefits or the dividends of this market. And that's why I have asked you that, looking from your own prism, how do you think this can steadily be handled? Because then again, we are the giant of Africa as Nigeria, and you mentioned some countries where the guided trade is supposed to commence. Nigeria was not in that list, but now we are talking about how we can also place Nigeria and reap these benefits. Please speak to that.
All right, so now to reap the benefit, first of all, we must be ready. And to be ready means there's need for capacity building. Capacity building in terms of training to be able to make our SME export ready. You know, in as much, one of the reasons why Nigeria has not been able to grow non-oil export, even outside AFCFTA, is the lack of export readiness. Majority of our businesses are not export ready. So we need to train them to become export ready. And then government need to support with funding, like what CBN is doing with RT200. For every export you do, you get 65 naira. For every dollar you repatriate. What that does is it helps them to cushion the effect of the cost of infrastructural deficit. Because it is export, you are going to be exchanging dollar for naira. Sincerely, if you are adding value, you will be profitable. But unfortunately, if you don't know exactly how to go about the documentation, how to ensure that you are able to obey the rule of origin, because not every manufacturer in Nigeria are going to enjoy AFCFTA. I need to emphasize that. There are rules of origin that guide product that will be eligible. So if you're a manufacturer, if your product does not meet up with the rule of origin.
Okay, Bamidele Ayemibo there speaking on the rules of origin part of the AFCFTA, and quite frankly, there's been a lot of concerns raised about the rules of origin concept of the AFCFTA, because most times a lot of manufacturers have raised eyebrows around the rules of origin issue. And like he has rightly stated, not a lot of manufacturers who enjoy the benefits of the AFCFTA, but then again, we still want a good chunk in that bracket to be able to say, oh yes, this agreement actually benefited us as a country with a very large population, which translates to a large market. This agreement is going to benefit us. Now, I would hold my horses, take a short break. When we return, we'll get to hear from Bamidele. Stay with us. Okay, welcome back. Bamidele, I want you to speak to developments around the rules of origin, because just before we went on that short break, there's been a lot of concerns around this. I want you to break it down for the viewers and those watching.
Rule of origin basically ensures that not everybody would be able to ship, because if you open the door for everybody without rules, that means Africans are not the ones that will enjoy it. Rule of origin prevents a Chinese, a European, and American from shipping his good into Ghana, relabel it as produced in Ghana, and ship into Nigeria. Rule of origin prevents that. If we don't have a rule, what will happen is we'll have AFCFTA, we'll have the agreement, but the benefit goes to other countries. So the concept of rule of origin is to ensure that every raw material being used is largely from Africa, any country among the state parties in Africa. If we don't do that, we are not going to cascade the benefit of AFCFTA down to the grassroots. So if I want to produce, for example, noodles, and I'm sourcing my wheat flour from South America, from North America, then African farmers are not going to enjoy AFCFTA. The job creation, the poverty eradication, the reducing inequality is not going to happen. What Nigerian and African businesses that source raw material from outside of Africa need to begin to do is this: to begin to look for African countries that produce that product, rework their supply chain to begin to source from those countries. If they don't do that, they won't be able to enjoy the benefit of the AFCFTA, because the rule of origin ensures that the raw material is sourced from Africa. For example, also, if I'm into manufacturing, let me give a good example. Let's say I'm producing furniture. If the wood for that furniture is not from an African country, then you'll have created jobs for the people producing the wood outside of Africa. So you need to source your wood from other countries that are producing that product in Africa. If possible, set up a branch there to be able to source effectively and move it to Nigeria to produce, or move to that other country and produce there to ship to other African countries. If that is not done, we will be creating jobs for other nationals outside of Africa, and that will make a mess of the whole benefit that we should enjoy from AFCFTA.
Thank you for that clarification. Now, issues around dumping have been raised. Quickly speak to that.
Now, dumping is said to happen when an exporter is selling in an export market at a price lower than the price he is selling in the home market. So I'm exporting, for example, pap to the UK. The pap, let's say it costs $2 equivalent in Nigeria, but I'm selling it at $1.5, $1.8 in the US. That is dumping. Now, to be able to prevent that, this is where private sector must collaborate with the government. I'm aware the federal government has set up a trade remedy organization, something of that nature. The committee has been set up. I don't know if it's full-fledged running yet, but the idea is if we sense a product, we started AFCFTA, I see a product that my competitor that was not in Nigeria before that has come in, I will report it to that agency. They will go and inspect. You said this product is coming from, are we sure it's produced in Kenya? Does it actually meet the rule of origin expected in Kenya so that we can allow it in Nigeria? That is the whole idea. If we don't
Okay, Bamidele, I think we have lost you there, but thank you so much for coming on the program and also giving us your thoughts on how basically Nigeria can benefit from the AFCFTA agreement. Of course, the conversation is ongoing. We'll also look for a further date where we can explore this conversation further with you, but like you have rightly stated, awareness is key, awareness is important. The information needs to be out there for those in the business space to know that this is a market where we can all play in. And like Bamidele rightly stated, guided trade is expected to begin in the month of September. And after the guided trade is experimented and